So let me go through this presentation, and please interrupt me. And like I said, it's a little bit sprawling, so this is so this is landlord, right? What is landlorditis?
Landlorditis is the new.
Oh yeah.
So there's so just a little bit of context. Just the population growth is astounding. So 60,000 Jews in New York City in 1880, almost 200,000 10 years later, 500,000 10 years later, getting up to 1.6 million out of 5.5 million. So I mean, this huge growth of Jews. So again, a lot of the first rent strikes is Lower East Side. So this is around that time, one thing about these evictions that would happen, it was very heartbreaking to see all of your stuff on the street. Everybody could see all your business, and so here it was on the streets. One of the people that people know a lot, especially Yiddish New York, they do a big thing. Yeah, so probably people can speak a lot about her. So could you tell about when she?
Well, we had Clara Lemleth right here, actually.
Well, I've been known to play her.
Okay.
Played her role.
I wasn't there right now, but she led the uprising of the 20,000.
Yeah, exactly.
The largest U.S. labor strike, maybe general strike in all of the U.S. history, but it was a labor strike.
And she was like 18, right?
She was 19, or 23. She was, I don't know.
Well, no, I hear you tell. So she was born. This was 1990, so she was 23.
23.
Okay.
But yeah, a little kid.
Literally small.
What's that?
Literally very short.
Yes.
And she lit the room on fire.
Yeah, she had a famous speech at Cooper Union Hall.
And she was in the back, and she was like, enough of all this talk, and then they body surfed her to the front. So I don't know if that's true.
Yeah, that's what they say.
But one thing I gotta say, you have some great graphics from this strike, but nothing from 1920.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so one of these things, and I was looking what is the transition point between Lower East Side as the complete focal point to where things spread out, and I think this is where it happens. 1908, it's all Lower East Side, and then a decade later, it's spread all over here.
That is the way I go.
So very violent, and there's tons of articles
Well,
like
the meat
this.
strike.
Yes.
So there's the meat strikes in the middle here, in this whole decade. So this is one example. Women hurl kerosene on meats and police. So they're attacking. There are things where they're ripping off the clothes of police officers, throwing bricks and stones, and more women doing this, I think, than the men. And on the other side, here's Anthony Comstock is very, very strong at this point. So you have a lot of this decency. Yeah.
So the food riot was because the food was expensive?
Yeah.
Yes.
Food was too expensive, and they were
The butcher prices went way up, and for kosher meat, which is halal, we had very restrictions on butcher meat.
Yeah. Well, it was, so there were some things, I did another presentation in Brownsville, actually, where this happened. 1916, this woman flipped over a food cart on Belmont and Avenue in Brownsville, and this spread across the entire planet. Really, it went to Europe and Chicago, and they went to Waldorf Astoria. They were there's some story of this crowd of women. There's some rich guy riding in a car, and they pull him out of his car and beat him up. I mean, these were crazy riots. But also at this time we have people getting arrested for sending things through the Comstock was really violent in his attack on things that he didn't consider moral, and he was specifically upholding a Christian morality, as they described it. Just a little context. So here at this point, you also have the Triangle Shirtwaist Fire, 1911. There had been labor strikes at this factory before this, and then the shirt. I don't want to do this too much, but 146 people died, mostly young girls, teenage girls, but one thing that always I think bears repeating is that this was something that actually led to a change of laws, a change of not only laws but also procedures. So so often there are these horrible tragedies and nothing happens, nothing changes. But this one, it changed partially because of the activism over there. I could go into the people involved in that. But here also it says, so Bolsheviks are set up in Brownsville. So, so they have an image of this house burning, Bolshevism being the fire, and here's civilization over here. So there begins to be stories of Brownsville as the as kind of the source of that. So not everyone was radical. I mean, I'm kind of fascinated by the radical side of it, but that's not the only story. So we still to this day have the first children's library in Stone Avenue. So Stone Avenue, there was already a library over there, and so many people used it that they opened a second library pretty close by. And this was really a lot of the Jewish kids there. So this is 1914. I wanted to include this. There's also this whole suffrage movement going on at the same time. I can't even go into that in too much detail, but I included this one because it's Erasmus Hall, which is right next to the there's the Flatbush African Burial Ground. Do you want to say a word about that? Just as another aside.
Yeah. It's on the corner of Church and Bedford. Yeah, Bedford Church.
Yeah.
It's from this time of the time period.
Well, that I think goes back to the
it's in the 1700s. But there was a school there. I think it was
Erasmus High School. Oh, there's also a Jewish school.
Jewish school
too.
on that site. And so that was torn down, and then in the process of that, they discovered bones, remains. 2 years ago, they wanted to build housing on that spot, but a coalition formed up, and we got that canceled. And now we're in the process of doing community engagement to find out what we're going to put there.
So that's an amazing project over there.
So women weren't allowed to play?
No. So women were allowed to vote.
They were not allowed to vote?
There's voting was not, the 19th Amendment passed in 1920 gave most women the right to vote across the country. So before that, a lot of places women did not have the right to vote in New York, in the United States. Okay. And then I just had to throw this in here because also birth control is a big issue here. Margaret Sanger opens the first birth control clinic 1916 in Brownsville. I like to emphasize, maybe you have different opinions about this as well, that she was kind of one of these she's one of the kind of an upscale woman compared to the Brownsville woman over there. Whereas one of my kind of feelings is, or theories, I don't know what evidence there is, but there was a radical community over there that would be accepting of ideas like family planning. But she kind of took advantage of that. Would you say that's a?
I don't know much about it, but I think you're right that she felt that this would be an audience that would be receptive.
Yeah. But it got shut down in a few days. So it was. But this one I also wanted to include because this is in Crown Heights, 1313 Bedford, and there's this woman talking about sterilization because they wanted to sterilize the dirty masses, the morally unkempt. So to uphold Christian purity, they wanted to have sterilization of certain people. So this flips the idea. I think a lot of times, so there's lots of other stories there, but I'll share that link just because it's pretty amazing. Another thing, also around the same time, Leo Frank gets lynched. This is down in Georgia. So people may know the story about this Jewish guy getting lynched. You can see it's like a He's a businessman, very handsome, well. His family lived in Prospect Heights, 152 Underhill, and there's this Leo Frank Protest League, and I included this because this is also in the neighborhood, East 17th Street in Flatbush. And kind of the protest against that led to the anti-defamation
New
league.
York, right?
What's that?
In New York, he was lynched in New York?
No, in Georgia.
Georgia.
In Georgia. Yeah.
Georgia, okay.
Yeah, so.
What was the story again?
What's that?
What was the story
So
again?
he was a factory manager, and he was accused of raping a woman, falsely accused.
What was the woman? What was the
She was a white Christian woman, I guess?
She was a young, she was a teenager, she was a white worker in the factory.
Yeah, a white worker in the
And
factory.
she was killed, and she was raped.
And they blamed it on him, having no better person to accuse. So they took the Jewish manager in the factory, and which is the Jewish manager.
So again, I've been going back to Brooklyn here. So it wasn't all Jewish, here it just was an example of one of the things where it's a Polish, but again, like riots, butcher shops being smashed, police are stoned. I mean, these were crazy, violent times, as were everything was, even before that. It wasn't new that the level of violence here, but so like 1915. Again, a lot of labor union activism. There was a lot of stuff based on garment workers. There's a bagel union. There's all sorts of unions going on, and lots of strikes going on. So there's really a network of unionism and labor thing. One of the big heroes is this guy, Abraham Shiplikoff. So he was elected to the assembly a bunch of times. I call him the Brooklyn's, he was called the Brooklyn's Eugene V. Debs, just because that's a name that we know, but, and I like this one, and it was hard to find a good photo of him, but this one was interesting because it's the spirit of Brownsville. So this is 1938, and these socialists were very powerful over there. I mean, politically, they kept winning elections over and over again. I want to include this guy because you have a good picture of him. But he was also very important. He ran for mayor a couple times. He was one of the founders of the Social Democratic Party. He got a lot of votes when he ran for mayor. When the assembly members got ejected from the assembly, and he was their lawyer. So staunch internationalist, anti-militarist, a lot of pacifism was really a dangerous idea. Like, you would easily get thrown in jail for being a pacifist during World War I. And there's also, burgeoning kind of Zionist things. I found this quote, a lot of this stuff becomes everybody's got their agenda about Zionism at this one, but there's a lot of socialists who are Zionists. And this quote, I think I got it from Wikipedia, so take it as you may. So if Zionism ever developed in that direction towards kind of this harsh nationalism, it will forfeit its claims to socialist sympathy. And so he also wrote many books. And let me go back. So also Shiplikoff was also listed as being a Zionist. So who knows what that means at that time? So all of this happening, so it was already a dangerous time, and then the Russian Revolution happened. So the anti-communism just boosts up to like this super high fever pitch. And because people are really, people meaning the powers that ran the country, all the newspapers, pretty much all the elected officials really realized, like, oh my God, these Bolsheviks could overthrow the country. So, and then another aside, but again, some things keep coming up. So we had the Melbourne disaster. So do people know about this?
No.
So Empire Boulevard, so it's 2 blocks from here. This largest, most deadly subway crash rather, in New York City history. 93 people died, 2 blocks from here. and so at Flatbush and Empire. So